Greetings, everybody. It is really exciting to be with you again this evening. You will notice that our background is a little bit different than you usually see us. Usually see Dr. Jake in his office in Montana, and you see me in my office in Denver, Colorado. However, we are together now in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where we had a wonderful workshop today with several teachers from the area. And we did a workshop that's different from this one, but we were so happy to do this. But one of the things that we discovered is that many of the teachers who follow Dr. Jake and me do not realize that on April 1st of last year, 2020, we both abruptly resigned from AIAA. And we are now leading the organization called Array Global Educational Services, which our main service is accreditation. And if you think you're working with Dr. Ray and Dr. Jake, we're not with IA. So if you're interested in knowing more about Array Global, Dr. Jake will be talking more in just a little bit. We're so excited tonight that we have the leader in me that will be presented to you. I can only tell you that one of the most exciting times I ever had in a school was when I walked into a school, actually here in Saudi Arabia, where I, for the first time, met the leader in me. And here are two sixth grade boys who are standing there, and they are running the program. They talked about the leader in me, the principals, and they had two teachers standing behind them, but the students were definitely excited about their program. And you're going to hear more about this, and I will just give you a little plug here. I don't think there are very many programs that you can put in your school which will totally change your students more than the program that's going to be discussed today, the leader in me. So thank you for being here this evening, and Dr. Jake will introduce our guest, and we have a special surprise guest who's going to be coming on, and I promise you she will steal the show. So I'm just going to let the leader in me process, and you're on.
All right. Well, thank you. It's great to be here with you. And looking at the chat, we have people from all over the world. No pressure on our presenters, but we're excited to see that we have ministries, people from the ministries of education. We have school administrators, and of course, many teachers, and many people who sat through a workshop with me and Dr. Ray already today. It's great to see many of you joining us and learning more about the Leader in Me program that will revolutionize your school and improve your school and take it to a level that you never imagined. And so we're really excited to have Marcel Koning with us today. He's coming from Amsterdam, and I'll let him talk a little bit more about him, but he oversees the Leader in Me implementation in countries in Europe, in Africa, and the Middle East. And he's very adept at the program. He was just showing us some of the Muppets that he has with that. And we're excited to hear more from him and his guests that he has with us. Just a few items as we go through the workshop. You're welcome to put in any questions that you have in the chat box. And as we see some questions that Marcel would be able to go over, or that we can go over, we will interrupt and talk a little bit more about those different items. And then also, at the end of the workshop, there is a survey, just like we always do every time. It's a survey at the very end to make sure that we get your name correct so we can put it on your certificates, and your certificates will be mailed to you. So in 1 hour at 10 o'clock p.m. Saudi Arabia time, we will post that survey up. We'll answer some questions as you're filling out that survey. You'll be able to listen to us as we kind of chat back and forth. But that's when the survey is going to come out at the very end. There's a lot of good friends that we see, a lot of wonderful faces, familiar faces, and we welcome you all. And we welcome Marcel and turn the time over to him.
Well, thank you so much. And it's a real pleasure for me to be with you tonight. Yes, we are truly global. I see in the chat box from so many different places. And I'm glad that Amsterdam is one of those places that is now on this global meeting. So I really appreciate taking the time here. I've been thinking, what can I share with you? But first of all, before I share some things about our Leader in Me idea with schools, is that I would like to ask you to put in the chat box if you would describe the things that are currently challenging you in our school, um, could you name a few things that currently are your challenge within the school that you are facing as a teacher or as a director? I'm just curious to hear and see lack of student motivation. Okay, keeping all students in student engagement. Okay, distance learning. Yeah, that's a challenge. Mahamba, welcome from Tanzania. We have 2 schools there in Tanzania. Post-pandemic, what do you so post-pandemic, yeah, probably learning loss is one of the challenges there. Okay, the traditional teaching versus new strategy, student autonomy. Okay, communication skills. Yeah, learning loss after the pandemic. Compensate, yeah, lost learning. Yeah, big challenge everywhere. Social emotional learning, right? Organization policies, yeah. Yeah, these are, it is interesting, right? So after lockdowns, it's difficult to bring students back to a normal routine, right? Self-awareness, yeah. So we are currently, wouldn't you say currently, we are facing kind of a lot of challenges that um, when we learned to become a teacher, we did not really prepare for that, right? As a matter of fact, what I would like to show you is that, and let me share my screen. So the purpose of education is under, is undergoing change, and I'm quoting here a educational scientist. His name is Gert Bista. He is from the Netherlands and from the UK. He works in the UK as well. So I thought it would be nice to refer here to some international scientists as well. And he wrote about why do we do education, and he came up with three main challenges that I think all these things that you are mentioning fall under. And first of all, is that our schools, we have the job to qualify our students, right? They need to learn how to read and do math and learn languages, right? But school has become so much more. School is also a place where we transmit values, where we learn kids how to interact in a ever demanding social world, where they need to interact with others, where they need to learn how to solve problems, how to think critically, how to make relationships that last, how to find a job, and how to behave in that job. So value transition, socialization, so what he calls it, is one of the aspects of education. And the third one that he identifies is personal development. And I haven't seen any interview with teachers where we could not qualify any of the challenges that schools face these days under one of these three umbrellas, one of these three topics. Are you with me? So, right, so these are roughly speaking our challenges in schools. And the common practice in many schools, unfortunately, is still that we focus a lot on disqualification, academics, academic results, which is good. No, nothing bad with it. And we have little time for this socialization part. We feel that's under pressure, leave alone this personal development and personal strength side of schools, right? So there's two things with this. Of obviously, now post-pandemic, we see that this self-awareness, this personal development for students becomes even more important over time. And as well, we live in a society where transmitting values and who can we trust and distinguish fact from opinion, all these kind of things in the green area are ever so important too. So when we talk about leader in me, we try in our approach is not to separate them or make one more important than the other, but leader in me in the end is all about how do we create a school culture that combines these three elements. So how can we get a school approach that makes our striving for good academics, our striving for strong personalities that are life ready, and are striving for building a great culture, make them combined. Because I think you would agree with me that if you build strong leaders in your school, strong student leadership, the academics will go up simply because students are more motivated and take more initiative. Second is, if the culture in the school is great, our academics will go up, and these interact with each other. That's, I think, what makes Leader in Me stand out. To quote Gert Pista one more time, is how do we do learning? Well, in the end, it's not only the books we use or the systems we use, it's also the climate we create for the students. And Leader in Me is very much around this climate of student leadership that we try to make kind of like a process in which all the other things fall together. So, just for you to understand at the very beginning, Leader in Me is really not a program. It is more that you do the things you already do, but you approach them a little bit different. You approach them integrated. And so there we've learned over the last, well, 20 plus years in what really works and what doesn't work. I want to give credit to one very special woman here. Her name is Marcel Summers. She started this in a school where she faced a lot of challenges, right? And so her school almost closed down, and she tried this initiative to, why not make student leadership more important in our school and give the student more voice, give the student more empowerment, empower the students to lead their own learning and to practice real life challenges and how to solve them in her school. And her results were amazing. Um, so yeah, if you ask me what is the one thing that stands out in a Leader in Me school, is that we see the students take more initiative because we put student leadership as part of our whole approach. I would love to tell you a little bit more about how we do that and what our ideas behind it are. But before I do so, I want you to hear firsthand that this has impact on students. And who could tell us better than a student? So we have the pleasure today and I have the pleasure to introduce you to Ushwa from Karachi, Pakistan. Ushwa, can you say hi to everybody here on the call? Where are you? Is your connection there? Oh, you're muted, Ushwa. Maybe you can unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Uswa Batul and I'm from Karachi, Pakistan. I'm very excited to lead everyone.
Very nice. We are so excited to meet you, Ushwa. Ushwa, can you tell us a little bit about your school? What do you like about your school?
I love about my school that the teachers are so nice to us. They also play with us and they also teach us really good.
Okay, that's great to hear. So, hey,
We all are leaders over there.
So you say you are all leaders. What does it mean for you to be a leader?
To lead everyone to stay quiet.
Okay.
And
so
also be too proactive.
So okay, so you need to, yeah, because you're in the Leader in Me school, right?
Yes.
And so you learn 7 habits of how to be a leader, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell that, yeah, the connection is a little bit slow, so that's okay. You have to wait a few seconds to answer. Can you tell us what these habits are? Do you know a couple of them already by heart?
Yes.
Habit 1. Habit 1.
Can you say what habit 1 is? What is habit 1? Do you remember?
Yeah. Be proactive. I'm in charge.
Habit 2.
Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. Habit 3. Put first things first. Habit 4. Think when. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Habit 6. Synergize. Habit 7. Sharpen the saw.
Wow, cool. So you knew them all by heart. That's amazing. Hey, Ushwa, what is your favorite habit?
My favorite habit is synergize.
And why is that? Can you tell us that?
Because I'm not the only one who is playing and who is doing homework. My friends are with me, my family members and cousins. So that's why I use that habit everywhere.
Okay. Hey, and so that's great, Ushwa. So you're great in playing together with others. But can I ask you, so
Yeah.
how do you use habit one, be proactive in school? Can you give an example of how you learn to be more proactive and how you used it in your school?
I use proactive language and I'm not being aggressive to everyone.
Okay, so you use proactive language, right? Okay. And
Yeah.
hey, I want to ask one more thing. What is your favorite subject in school? What do you like to do most?
My my favorite subject is maths.
Maths. Oh, good. Are you good at it? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Hey, Ushwa, now there are 168 teachers on this call, on this meeting, and um, what would you want to tell them that they should do better for students? Or is there anything you'd like to ask them to do with their students? Is there any advice you give them, because you are a leader and you are in the school, so they should listen to you, right? What would you advise them?
You all are doing a great job. Just do listen to your students at times.
You all are doing great job, but listen to your students for some little of time.
Okay. And what would you like to see more in school? What should they make more time for?
They should make fun in every subject and also fun in teaching.
Ah, nice. So thank you so much, Uswa, for talking to us and explaining us the 7 habits. And I'm really excited you could join us tonight, because what time is it in Pakistan now?
It's 11:18 p.m.
Phew, so you must be tired now, but you still smile and you have such a beautiful smile. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
and I'm so excited that you took this opportunity to lead us tonight.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Mr. Marshall.
Bye bye. Oh, and by the way, here's Jumper. You know Jumper, right?
Yeah.
And Jumper will fly from Amsterdam to Karachi in Pakistan and be your jumper. Okay?
Yay.
Yay! Okay, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you,
You're
Ushwa.
welcome.
I told you she would steal the show.
Yes.
That's so cool. So I'm excited for you to meet Ushwa. What happened here, by the way, is what I want you to know that we did not script anything. So I met Ushwa yesterday briefly to check the connection, but we did not script. I asked her completely different questions today than yesterday. Why? Because this was not about being a perfect show. This was about giving Ushwa an opportunity to lead, to practice speaking in public, to know how it feels that you're nervous because all of a sudden things that you wanted to say are not coming to your mind again. And that's the whole idea of many of our best practices in Leader in Me. In Leader in Me schools, you will see that every student has a leadership role. So has some kind of responsibility in the class or in the whole school even. And that when we have meetings around our academic results with the parents as teachers, that the students lead out on them. And so this is one of the aspects um, that we try to do in Leader Me. And that is because we wanted different results in our schools than we had. We wanted to try to integrate those three elements of learning, academics, but combine them with personal leadership, with personal initiative and culture. And uh, when we talk about these things, when we talk about Leader in Me School, like I said, it's not like a different program. It is how we see things more that changes. So it's not really that as a teacher you're all of a sudden going to do different things or teach a completely different curriculum. No, it's basically it starts with seeing the world a little bit different. And Dr. Stephen Covey, who is the founder of our organization, Franklin Covey, one of the founders, he taught it this way. He said, and let me explain you this model briefly. He said, if you want to get new results in your life, in your school, we always look at what are the things we do, what are the practices we do, right? Because what we do influences the results we get. But one of the great ideas Dr. Covey left us with in this world is that in order to really get different results, we should go one step deeper than just doing things differently. We should examine how we see things. We should examine what he calls our paradigms. And typically, if you want to get a completely different result in your school, challenge your paradigms, challenge your mental map on how you see things. So when we apply that to Leader in Me schools, I want to introduce you to the paradigms we use in Leader in Me schools and that we discuss heavily with the teachers in the school. So I don't know if you are familiar with this illustration. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. So obviously, climbing a tree is not the same for these, what is it, 6 animals that are standing there, right? It's kind of like how you see the world is how you makes a difference on how you're going to do things. It's going to be a different approach for everybody. Now let me discuss with you the paradigms of our Leader in Me schools. So Leader in Me schools have 5 paradigms. The paradigm of leadership, the paradigm of potential, the paradigm of change, of motivation, and of education. And let me go through it briefly with you so you have an idea what is our culture that we want to build in the school. Well, first of all, paradigm of leadership. Everyone can be a leader. Not this. Leadership is for the few. So this is why we brought on Ushwa tonight, because she is a leader. She can present. She can, and this is a very principal idea that we say everybody in the school can be a leader, can take ownership of their own future. No, not everybody will be a manager in their life, but everybody can take initiative. And that's what we try to learn them. Leadership is a choice, not a position. We really want to stay away from the management idea, but everybody can be a leader because everyone has genius or second paradigm. It's not that only a few, so we focus on everybody's genius in school, not only on the few students that are academically a high performer, because there may be also students in your school that are great in art or that are great in other things. And it's our challenge in school as teachers to show everybody, to give every student the idea that they have potential, that they have genius. Change starts with me is a very important paradigm Leader in Me schools, and this applies typically to the teachers, right? So if you want to do something different, it starts with you, not in your circumstances. We are often so much focused on our circumstances, but how can you make a difference? We really want to give that ownership to everybody in the school. And this is an important one. empower students to lead their own learning. So this is why we give those lead, we let them practice. You can't do this if you don't give them the room to practice. But we want students to learn that they can make choices and that those choices affect their outcomes. Finally, educators and families partner to develop the whole person. So school is not only about the student's brain. School is about the whole person, body. Some students are just more physically engaged than others. We focus on the spirit. We focus on the heart, on social relationships, on the spirit and the spiritual world for the students. And of course, on the mind, we challenge their mind as well. And this aligns so well with these days where when we looked at the chat, some of you were saying, hey, social emotional learning is the biggest challenge. So this is how we try to develop the whole person in a world where not only the academics or the brain is required to the student. Let me focus. So let me go back. So these are the paradigms, and then we apply this approach to those paradigms. And let me focus a little bit with you on that. What stands, I think, out most in Leader in Me schools, which is the leadership area. So leadership. You saw Oshwa mention the 7 habits of highly effective people. Dr. Stephen Covey's book that he wrote. Oh, it seems that I have something switched on here. There, subtitling, I can take it off. It's because it's Dutch and that's no use for most of you. But so when we talk about this leadership aspect and the student leadership and saying every student can be a leader, then we need to give them the tools on how to be a leader. And we give them those tools by means of this model, the 7 habits of highly effective people. Because what you see in here in this model, and I will take you through it in a second, can truly help people learn social emotional learning. And I have too little time to go too deep on this, but if you go to on our website, you will find how the social emotional competencies that, for example, Marcel in the US has described, how much they align with these 7 habits. And why would we focus so much on, a model from a book, a leadership book? Well, I want to do a little quiz with you. Are you in for a small game? Can we do a small game?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Looking
Okay.
forward to it. Yeah.
So here we do. I will on the next screen. You see my screen still, right, Jacob? Okay.
Yes.
So
Yep.
on my next screen, I will put on the numbers 1 till 54. They're all there, trust me, 1 till 54. And it's your job to find them all. So it's your job to find number 1 till 54 in the right order. So if you see number 54, you're not there yet, right? You have to first find number 1, then find the number 2, then find number 3, then 4, until you reach 54, okay? You have 1 minute to do that. And let's see who gets furthest from all of us. So this is like an international teacher contest here, okay? Are you ready? You get 1 minute to look for it. Here we go. No pressure, but you're over the half of your time. I've never done this with a global audience. 10 seconds. Okay, let's stop here. I see 2. So can you put in the chat box how far you got? I see 2 people that said done. Done. 4, somebody. 3, done. So those of you who got all 54, how did you do it? How did you get to 54? Did you use a strategy? So can you explain the strategy, the one that's called founder? What was your strategy? Can you type it in the, can we unmute him? Yeah, I can unmute you.
Yeah, I can unmute him.
Okay. What was your strategy? What's your name, first of all?
Hello, my name is Farouz.
Hi.
I'm one of the passionate followers of Array Global Educational Service Workshop, and it's a pleasure to be here. So what I did basically was I tried to focus on the numbers from a broader perspective, not really looking one by one, but seeing it as a whole. So, and in that case, I was able to capture all 54 numbers. So I didn't really focus on one number specifically, like searching 1, where's 2, where's 3. I rather saw it as a whole, as a group together.
Okay, nice.
Yes. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Great to hear. Yeah, so a little bit distance in life works, right? What also works is it's pretty unique that you saw them, by the way. That's very unique. But what if I told you that there is a framework in this whole numbers game, so that the next number was always in a almost logical place, right? So you see here, number 1 is here, number 9 is here, and then number 10 falls back in number 1 again, and number 11. You see there is a pattern. There is a framework that makes a complex number game like this, in fact, rather easy. And yes, some distance helps, but having this framework helps again. So this is an illustration of why we work with the 7 habits of highly effective people, because as a teacher, you know, social emotional learning and having those kids really learn deep new habits or learn social emotional competencies is not that easy. This model is trying to make leadership, make personal development is a framework so we can speed up something as complex as social emotional learning by applying the idea of, hey, let's make it more or less logic. And what does this model say? How do the 7 habits help our schools so much? Why do we see bullying go down by 60% in some schools, even in the first year? Why do we see so many referrals drop? Here it is, because intentionally we work with students to give them language and to give them common language. And imagine if you're in a Leader Me school from 1st grade till 6th grade, and every teacher talks with you in the same language about the same important stuff. The chances are high it will sink in your brain and you will transfer this to your real life. And those elements we try to achieve. Now, let me briefly, for those of you who have never heard about the 7 habits before, I'll try to do the 7 habits in 7 minutes. Is that okay? So here we go. 7 habits is all about growing from dependence, which means I am dependent on somebody else, which we all start life with. And you grow to some level of independence, which means you can stand on your own feet. That's what we want for students, don't we? We want students to become independent. We want them to think for themselves. We want them to take initiative. We want them to be intrinsically motivated. How do you get there? Well, a human being needs to obtain 3 habits, 3 ideas. Be proactive. Take the responsibility for your own life, not somebody else. Your happiness, your future is not, you're not a victim of circumstances. You can take initiative. Well, but if you take initiative, then what direction do you want to go with your life? If you don't have clarity around the direction you want to go in your life, you can still take initiative, but it's like going on the highway and going west, but you want it to go east. So we want to learn students to become more independent, to take the leadership of their own life, to get in the car of their own life and also go into the right direction. And while they're in the car, we teach them first things first. While you're in the car, you should not text people on your phone. You should be having your eyes on the road. 3 habits that can help people become independent. And when you're independent, Dr. Covey said, that's your private victory. That's like strong roots. And when we explain these habits in school, we use this tree as an analogy. We say, hey, habits 1, 2, and 3 is like building strong roots for your life. And we all know that great collaboration, great interaction in school, it's like great leaves of a tree. They don't come without strong roots. And so Leader in Me Schools is all about building strong roots. Habits 1, 2, and 3. And then we don't stop at independence. We think that in this world, people need to interact well together. Wouldn't the world be so much more peaceful if people would know how to interact together well? Well, that takes another 3 habits. Habit 4, think win-win. Habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood, which is all about the skill of listening. This is one of the biggest omissions in most of our curriculums, I think, that we teach kids how to write, how to speak, but we forget to teach them how to listen. And it's one of the most crucial skills in life to get somewhere. Habit 6 is where we all want to end up, synergy. It's the great collaboration of cultures, of people, of societies. This is where we find, like in nature, if you look into nature, there's so much examples of synergies. When the birds, now we're in fall here in the Netherlands, when our birds fly south, they never fly south on their own. They fly south in a formation to go to the sun, to go to the warm winter. They fly south in a formation, otherwise they will die. Interdependency. It's everywhere in nature, but we need to learn how to apply it. And we want our kids to learn this. Then habit 7, sharpen the saw, is we all need, every now and then a break. And so there's a healthy, sharpen the saw. It's like you don't want to cut a tree with a blunt saw because you'll take more time. So sometimes it's better just to sharpen the saw, and then cutting that tree goes so much faster. So great lessons for any student to learn in the Leader in Me school. Now, do we do only this in Leader in Me schools? Of course not. But I wanted to show that this is my inspiration for you tonight. Is if you see here these habits, 7 habits of highly effective people, and you see the competencies that are required, you see how well they align. So our social emotional competencies are aligned with the habits. Or in some cultures, they talk more about the character development. So this is what we call student leadership, is that students learn these competencies, build this strong character, and then apply that in life, in their school life. So we've built a whole framework of best practices on how we implement Leader in Me, but I don't want to go there right now. I just wanted to show you that we've learned from over the years how that works. But let me give you a couple of pictures as an example how that then works in school. So this is a Dutch school where they built this tree in the middle of the school. And so that tree symbolizes, and the leaves are all the students and their names are on it. And it symbolizes that we are a school where everybody counts and we strive for this working well together. Here, it's saying, so this picture is all about important people in our history. And what this picture is illustrating, and not only in our history, in the world history, I think, but what this picture is illustrating is that we look in life not for bosses, but for leaders. The world has been changed in the past and in the present, not by people who wanted to boss more people, but people who wanted to lead. And what is leadership? It's helping others lead themselves. So, give you some more Dutch lessons here. So here is a student that And here's a teacher that wants to apply the habits to real school life. So this is habit 1, be proactive. And this boy says, hey, how can I apply be proactive? Well, I can just take care of my paper and put it in a trash can and take care of the trash in the school myself. I don't need to be, cleaning the school is not necessarily the job of the cleaners. I can be proactive and help the cleaners as well. And schools measure in very creative ways. Teachers find ways how to measure if students show these habits in their life. Students learn to think about, especially in COVID times, what is my circle of influence and what is my circle of concerns? What are things in my challenges that I face as a student that I can influence, and what are things that I cannot influence? It's an example of being proactive or being reactive. We can't influence the weather. We can only influence what we can influence. Okay, and so every student has a leadership role. You do the Dutch, but in every classroom you see like these signs, leadership roles. You can figure out the Dutch here, right? So here are roles that the students have come up with themselves. It is their initiative to find roles that they want to do, and they can apply for those roles. They can apply for the roles. They reflect on the roles, because reflection is so important in our learning. And by the way, all our best practices align with John Hattie's visible learning research and other research. We research every step of best practices we do in our schools in order to make sure that this is not just a great story, but we analyze them not only on effectiveness, but also on our paradigms. Do they really build leadership? Okay, so as you see in Leader in Me schools, students do the guided tours, and students practice them with each other. And when parents come in, they lead the conversation. I think I have and by the way, student initiative. So this is a school where they had to redesign the school, how do you call that? The play yard, right? So typically in the school, it will be designed by some adults, by some teachers. Not in this schools. The students were in charge of redesigning the yard, the playground, where the kids could play, right? And even when they the students took their initiative, they applied the 7 habits to their neighborhood. So they found out here on the right that in the neighborhood, too many people were throwing trash on the street. So the kids created posters. They created their own posters and hang them like literally on the public roads to challenge the neighborhood to not throw trash on the streets anymore, because they were sick of it. And so they came one day to the teacher and said, "Teacher, we are so sick that people throw their trash on the street right in the area of our school." And so the teacher said, "So what do you want to do about it?" "Oh, we can make posters." "Go make posters." "What do you want to do with the posters?" "Well, we need to ask for permission to hang them out." "Okay, you want to write the letter to the city council? You write the letter to the city council. I'll support you. Tell me if you need anything." And so initiative grows and leadership grows, and the opportunity is just huge. Kids learn planning. Kids learn how to plan for a trip, for a holiday, for whatever, but they also learn how to plan for their own academic grades. And very important, one last thing, every student and every teacher creates their own personal mission statement. What is my goal? Who do I want to be in this class? And the teacher models it. The teacher tells the students what her goals are. We use another framework called the 4 disciplines of execution, very much aligned with what John Hattie calls summative and formative learning. And so we let the students take ownership of their own learning, even to their own note. Let them do the goal setting, set micro goals, and be accountable for those things. So yeah, that's the kind of the main overview. So you see in Leader in Me schools, let me wrap it up there. Then maybe we should open up for some questions, and if not, I can show you even more. But Leader in Me is all about trying to create a school that is not necessarily doing things differently, but approaching things differently. And we approach this ubiquitous approach where academics, culture, and personal development go hand in hand. We try to apply them to all things. And it's the paradigms that make the difference. And the paradigms are all about student leadership, are all about students can lead. Students should lead. In our AB Combs school, up till 68% of the job that the teacher used to do was now done by students. And it freed up the time for the teachers to be more of a life coach to their students, to give more individual attention. And the academics only grew in that school. So we really want to develop the whole person and help students to lead themselves and lead others. And we empower this leadership with the 7 habits of highly effective people. And this way we are now in 5,000 schools over the whole world and in 57 countries. And so this is just an amazing. Dr. Covey, before he passed away, one of his last things he discussed with Muriel Summers was, we need to take this to every child in every corner of the world, because we believe that the potential is great in this world, and we want to empower and unleash that potential with every child in the world. Let me pause here and see if there are any questions. Jacob, you
Yeah.
checked on the okay.
Yeah, Marcel, there's a great comment by Jan Davidson in the comment section. She said that after just a few weeks of implementing the Leader in Me program, where the students were being taught to clean up after themselves, clean their classrooms, that the student actually went home was being proactive. So you could see the entire process of the Leader in Me going through this child's character and how well it was implemented. I thought that's just a great thing to highlight.
Yeah, and I'm glad you say that. One of the interesting things is that we meet with parents. Well, let me give you one example of a great Leader in Me school in Scotland, which is in an area where there is, pretty much, the majority of the population is without jobs, the parents, and so Leader in Me in that school did not only impact the students, but the students all of a sudden start talking at home about being proactive. And so the teachers started classes for their parents in the 7 habits as well. And the last time I visited that school, I was hoping to meet some parents, and so they called some parents in, and then I was supposed to meet, I think, with 6 parents, and only 2 showed up because 4 of them had an interview for a job on that same morning. And I said, wow, this is the best reason for people not to show up, right? Because it had impacted the whole environment. And by the way, this is also an interesting principle behind the Leader in Me, is that change starts with me, right? So when we go into the process of Leader in Me, we first of all teach all the teachers the 7 habits, and we say, hey, just go model in your classroom. Be the leader in your classroom, model this behavior, start using the language, and just enjoy what's going on. Because it's an inside-out approach, right? It is not just, hey, tell me how to do it. No, it's really, hey, if you want to change as a teacher, you can be the change to your students.
Marcel, another great question from ST, she's labeled as ST. Is the Leader in Me taught as lessons or classes in the schools, or is it part of the hidden curriculum? Is it just built right into what's going on in the school?
Yeah, okay. So thank you for asking that. So let me point out, and this goes a little bit deeper for those of you who are interested in this implementation of Leader in Me. So we use this framework for implementing Leader in Me. And so in this framework, you'll see here a topic called direct lessons. We've built lessons like a 7 habits curriculum that is available on our platform that every school gets access to, with including the cartoons of these funny characters of the happy kids, right? So this goes all the way up to high school, where obviously we have different videos and different illustrations that fit their age level, right? So but you see, that's only one of our. You have to see every bullet point is like an implementation practice, and over time you can implement them all, and then the whole areas of leadership, culture, and academics are covered, right? So, but beyond that, there is always new learning and deepening in it. But there is also what we call integrated approaches. So in integrated approaches, we take this idea of goal setting, for example, think with the end in mind, and we apply it to a subject. Or so, is there a curriculum? Typically, every school that I know spends maybe 1 or 2 hours a week on doing what they call Leader in Me hour. But it's so much more than that. It goes into all, because the leadership roles, they are around the breaks, and they are about cleaning up the stuff, or taking care of the technology in the school, or taking care of the library in the school, or taking care of the hallways, that they are nice and organized. So that's hidden but visible. But there is also the component of, hey, we need to take some time at the beginning of every semester or at the beginning of every school year to do some direct teaching to refresh the language. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it did, for how I understood it. There are two different questions that are pretty similar, Marcel, about implementing the Leader in Me in different countries, different cultures, different countries that may be very conservative. I think we have a lot in some conservative countries, which we both love, and that's why Dr. Ray and I are in Saudi Arabia. It's a wonderful country, and it might be a little bit difficult to implement some of these aspects, or maybe not.
I would honestly say this is the beauty of the Leader in Me, is when we say we want to empower the students to lead their own learning, we also want to empower the teachers to create their own version of Leader in Me. And so this is why I wanted to show you some examples from the Netherlands, but I can also show you a video from, let me show you a short, I have like a 1 minute 30 video from Ushka School in Pakistan. And let's have a look at that one. And so in Ushwan School, this is her school about the 7 habits, and it's on YouTube. I am happy to send you the link. I will send you the slides anyway, so the link will be in the slides. But here's Ushwa School, and we have schools, just so you know, we have them in Saudi Arabia, quite a few in Jeddah where you are. I've been there just before COVID hit. I was just on time. And to visit that, beautiful schools, and yes, in a very different culture, but it's the principles, I think, of the 7 habits, growth from dependence to independence, is a global theme, right? And of course, the values are coming from a different cultural background, and that's perfectly fine. So here is Ishwar's school, and let's have a look at her school.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ayan Arif Siddiqui, and I am from class 9I. The habit that is of utmost significance, in my opinion, is begin with the end in mind. It symbolizes that once you have a goal, you have to obtain it. You have to attain the goal through the steps that you follow. And as a celebrity has once famously mentioned, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Once you have your goal set, you must follow it with discipline. Utmost importance is that you follow up everything with discipline.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Maiva Nadeem and I'm from 9S. The habit that I think needs discussion is put first things first. My take on this particular habit is that it puts emphasis on prioritizing things that are of much more importance and significance, thus leading to proper time management. It may cause one to complete the work before it is actually due.
Yes, so there's another great video from the school where they talk about how they work with leadership notebooks, reflection notebooks, but that one is a little bit longer, and I will put it in the slide deck so that people can watch that on their own. should they want to. I can also put that link in the chat box as well. It's another great video where you see how it's really applied in the local culture. And let me put it in the chat box.
And Marcel, while you're doing that, the last question I think that's coming up is how do we implement, how would a school go about the step-by-step process of implementing it, from contacting you to training teachers and getting buy-in from parents? There are several different people with comments about how do we get parents really involved?
Okay. Oh, that's a great question. And let me start off by sharing my screen once more. So in the region, we have local representatives. And I just put on here on the slide here, I put the representatives in where we thought most people would come from. So we have a local office in Saudi Arabia and also for the Emirates. Esra is a wonderful colleague of mine, and Hisham in Egypt. Masood and Fazal are from our office in Pakistan. They're on the call. They helped this great school here, Ushwa School, implement. Samit is in India, and for the rest of the world, feel free to contact me. I saw some schools from Tanzania. We work globally. We have many schools in Brazil. We truly are a global. China is moving. So. First that thing. Then regarding how to get buy-in for parents, I think this is really first seeking to understand and to be understood. Habit 5 is also there for them. So I would call for parents, but if you ask the parents in a meeting, or if you talk to the parents, what would you want school to do? I think the parents will come up with these 3 areas as well. So academic, I want my son or daughter to be qualified for life, get a diploma. Secondly, I want them to become a great person, right? And that's personal development, but also be a great person within a context of working well with others. So then the conversation starts just like we started today. Is okay. So our school's vision is to really go on that journey. And these are our paradigms. And so I don't think any parent will mind if you as a teacher say, I believe that your son can be a leader or daughter can be a leader. I believe that your son or daughter has potential. And it's my goal, it's my end in mind that I want to unleash that potential in your son or daughter. Right? So that's, I think, where the conversation starts. We have a great families version of the 7 habits. That how to apply this in the family, and that typically helps the parents as well to understand what this is all about. Does it answer? Is that kind of an idea? But I would always get into the conversation, let them ventilate what their needs are, and then you see if the leader in me approach could be something that could address the needs of your parents.
Marcel, our time is about up, and I just want to throw one final question at you. This is considered a rhetorical question, I think, because I think the answer is obvious. But have you noticed in the schools where you have the leader in me, the schools are saying that their academic performance of their students has increased dramatically, as well as establishing the leader in me principles?
Yeah. So let me give you one example about that. So we have this school in London, here in Europe, but this is a global initiative. But in London, I don't know, many of your schools will probably have the British curriculum or Cambridge or do something like that. And you know that Ofsted, so the British inspection, is one of the most critical inspections, right, on academic achievement. And so the one of the schools, one of the Leader in Me schools, faced a truly academic, gap and fall behind, and used Leader in Me to improve those academic results. This was one of the first times that Ofsted wrote in their report that of course, their academics went up. They said in their report, we believe this was an academic improvement based on the Leader in Me program implemented in the school, because we feel that the students were really given more initiative and more focus. Now, this is so aligned with what John Hattie says in his visible learning, right? Because if you set individual goals for high achievements for students, that's in John Visible's world, that's a huge impact, effectiveness impact. He measures that you need to be above 0.4 or something, and this is like 1.9 or so. This is really a high score. But the problem is we wanted the students to own that. So the students have it to think with the end in mind. They set that goal. We let them do formative and summative testing. So no wonder with this leader in me, the academics go up. That's what was already proven, right? So and Ofsted recognized that it was really beautiful for the school leader to get that recognition.
Yes, when I take on my own responsibility, I realize that's my responsibility, and I'm going to work harder at it at all areas. Dr. Jake has a couple of comments to make, and then I'll conclude this in just a moment.
Yeah, we're going to post the survey on in just a minute. And at the end of the survey, there's a question specific about Leader in Me. If you are seriously interested, please let us know so we can pass that on to Marcel and someone will be in contact with you. We'd also like to announce that Array Global is unveiling 2 additional services to schools that we are very, very excited about. The first one is a sister school program. If you're accredited with our organization, we've partnered with an outstanding organization out of the state of Ohio that will provide you with a sister school in the United States that you can develop a relationship based upon your needs and what works for you. You can travel to the United States and visit the school. They might have some teachers and students come and visit your school too, depending on which country you're in. Very, very exciting news. The sister school program is something that we have been asked about for years and years, and we're very, very excited about this partnership. Along with this partnership that we have, if you want students in your school to get credit from a high school in the United States, they can do that through 2 different ways. The first one through a distance-based learning program through this online high school, or this high school can train your teachers, certify your teachers, and help them teach the class right in their classroom, and your students will receive a high school credit. If students receive 6 credits from this school and they meet all the other graduation requirements, taking other classes from your school, they can receive a high school diploma. Very, very exciting. And part of that too, the classes that they take, they can choose to either take it as a high school level or at the college level and get university credit through major universities in the United States. So we're very, very excited about those 2 new services. Watch our Facebook feed and our newsletters as we unveil them with more information. And please contact us right away if you want to start that process. Again, these are for schools that are accredited by Array Global. So if you're not accredited by Array Global, jump on board right away, because it's going to be some amazing services to help you really improve your school. Not only the Leader in Me program, that is an outstanding program. We're here to help you, and we want to make sure that you're providing the best education that you can for each one of your students.
And thank you again, Marcel, for this wonderful introduction. For many people, for the first time to be introduced, I've enjoyed reading the comments from the people who already are involved with your program and how very excited they are and the difference they've made. I'd like to conclude with one of my favorite quotations that I heard several years ago. There was a man by the name of Dr. Benjamin Hooks. He was the chairman of the NAACP in the United States, a wonderful organization there. And I heard him give a speech once, and he said this: if you want to know the definition of a leader, it's very simple. A leader is simply a person who has followers. And then he said, he who thinketh he leadeth and hath no followers is merely taking a walk. And we want to develop leaders who will have people following them. Thank you all so much for this wonderful time together, and we hope that this has been helpful. Our next workshop will be on the 3rd Saturday in December, and we are looking forward to seeing many of you at that time.